That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
What year did Chelly win the Norris?
Won it a couple times, didn't he? I think we're probably live
I meant
right
his
now.
first one in Montreal.
Yeah, I know. I think we're live right now too. So let's just keep it as we're going because I can see the thing in the top. I'm just going to keep going and not let John bother me.
No, the only reason I asked that is because I was what was he chirping?
No, we're on.
Oh,
yeah.
He got him again. And I was, you guys were having this really interesting thing about Chris Chelios, and then I just looked down and said 12:30. So I looked over, and John's moving his head around and flying and like really like focused. So I go, oh, maybe he's trying to get this on the air, and so maybe we have a little bit of a thing. And then because the remote guys can see when it goes live, that we can't. We should have that little logo that says, hey, you're live.
We should get a new producer.
This is the DLLS Dallas Stars pregame show, Finland style. Let's get it started. It is Friday. It is the first day of November, and this is a game day. For the first time in a week, the Dallas Stars are playing hockey for real. Welcome to the DLLS Dallas Stars pregame show alongside the star of the day, Craig Ludwig, because of the great makeup job he had yesterday. The unbelievable, well, he's over there, but on our screen, he's over here, Sam Nessler, a.k.a. Mini Luds, and back from his Halloween days, which was that Lilo and Stitch? It's Sean Shapiro.
Pokemon.
What was the theme of your family Halloween costumes?
Pokemon. Both kids were Pokemon.
Oh, they were Pokemon. It looked a little bit like a Lilo and Stitch.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
That's a sin bin, Owen. That's a sin bin right there. Do the show and don't be, crapping your britches the rest of the show based on that, but that's a sin bin.
For your 10-year-olds that care about the difference between the Pokemon and the Lilo and Stitch characters.
I mean, mixing up Lilo and Stitch with Pokemon is egregious.
I just got John upset because of an animation foul, so I'll take my sin bin.
That's pretty bad.
Okay, well, anyway.
Sean's backing him up.
Yeah, I know. Sean's just mad because he was the most recent victim of the sin bin, and so he wants to see anybody else have to sit in the corner.
This was based off. This was Pokemon from based off the ones that came out like in 95, 96. Like this is not even something where you can claim this is like your kid's age stuff. Like that's a bad miss, Owen.
I'll have to look at the picture again because I did not see any of it, but that's okay. Roope Hintz, Esa Lindell, and Miro Heiskanen just did a rookie lap, so to speak, but it was more of a lap of honor. They came out first before the rest of the Stars did because they are getting warm-up underway at Nokia Arena in Tempere in Finland. That is Roope Hintz's hometown. Actually, technically, he was born in Nokia, but he grew up in Tempere. And this is a huge day for those three and for the guys from Florida because they have Aleksander Barkov, Nico Mikkola, Eetu Luostarinen, and Anton Lundell. That's right. There are 7 Finns in this game today, Luds, and this is literally the big thing for them. I mean, it's huge for the whole team, for the Stars and the Panthers, but for those 7 guys, this means more.
I didn't realize it was this big. I mean, it really is a big thing. I'm curious to see how they play. You know, they've been the talk of the town, so to speak, and they're all been paraded around and doing all their things off ice and charity events and things like that. So I'm curious to see if it's an over try. I don't worry about anything else and all the other extracurricular stuff. Are guys going to try to do a little too much and maybe get exposed for it?
Well, that's the question I have for you, Sean, is they spent the week in Finland. They arrived, technically it was Monday. They left Sunday, but by the time they arrived in Helsinki, it was Monday. They spent a few days exploring and bonding in Helsinki and then in Tempere. And now they really have to get focused because this is a Stanley Cup champion defending club that they're facing. And they've talked about it before even leaving, of it being a really important measuring stick to see where they feel like they should have played them in the Stanley Cup final. They thought they should have gotten past Edmonton. And do you think that it means a little bit more for the Stars than the Panthers?
You mean the game itself playing in Finland? I mean,
no, the playing Florida versus Florida playing Dallas.
You mean the opponent? Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of what happens when you are the defending Stanley Cup champion. You're the measuring stick everyone brings up. That's a very easy talking point. These guys won the Cup last year. Let's go prove ourselves. So I think that can come into play, but I think from a Stars perspective, the Stars don't really look at the Florida Panthers as taking something away from them last year. It's more so the Edmonton Oilers. Like, the Edmonton Oilers were what got in their way last year, and them proving themselves against the Panthers, it's just a missed opportunity they had by not getting past Edmonton. So I look at it more that way, where this is a team that it's the only time you're going to play them is in this back-to-back. And I'm sure Pete DeBoer is going to look at it that way and tell the team, look, yes, it's a big event, but look at it like a mini playoff series. And hopefully this is the team we should have had a playoff series against last year. So just go out and prove it. And it's a pretty easy motivator.
Sam, do you think that the distractions that Luddy's always afraid of, or wary of, not afraid of, doesn't like, can be pushed aside? Can they have spent yesterday's practice and then get down to business and focus now?
Yeah, I think we talked about, I don't remember what day it was this week, about how mature this team is, and how that's not really a worry for a lot of this team. They know they kind of needed this break, right? We talked about how busy this schedule has been, how busy their past 2 years have been. So this is kind of their only really break, and they kind of treated it that way, right? The first couple of days were, let's go get into the saunas and let's go explore and let's go eat at the restaurants. And then they kind of shifted gears after that day off. And Thursday went into a serious practice. Friday, it's a regular game day, right? So I feel like it's shifted mentally, and I honestly think they're going to put together one of their better games today. I just think that they're very motivated to play well for these Finnish players. This is a really exciting game, but also, as we've talked about, this is the Stanley Cup champion. This is the measuring stick, and this is someone they thought they should have played in a best of seven. So now they kind of play them in a best of two over in Finland.
Now, I know that you were talking about the potential for the distractions, the bonding stuff earlier in the week, which was really good. But once you get to Thursday, you have a practice. Even though they went out and explored restaurants and stuff, that's nothing new for a road trip in the NHL.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that guy said. And the reason for me, the belief is because of the opponent. If you don't have your A game against this team, and coming off of Stanley Cup, sometimes teams take a little dip, getting into the season and recovering from the parades and the ocean jumps and everything else. This team doesn't seem to have. So, and I do think that, it's early in the year, but what comes along with winning the Cup is everybody uses you for a measuring stick. And I think the Dallas Stars are no different. And they know they're a good team, and there's a potential of playing these guys, hopefully in a long time from now. And they want to be able to show to themselves, not anybody else, to themselves, that they can play against this team, because this team they play a style that's hard to play against. They're not a flashy kind of team. They got a couple flashy players, but they play a blue-collar kind of game, and it's a territorial one, and they'll get in, they'll forecheck, they'll be in front of the net, they'll make the defenseman play in front of their goaltender. And and they're going to have numbers all over the ice. And so it's difficult to get through this. So it'll be a good test for them.
All right, let's get to the lineup, because we actually can confirm what we saw from practice yesterday. The Stars have made 2 changes as far as who plays where, and we'll show it up on our screen here in just a second. Jamie Benn moving with Jason Robertson. Ben will play with Hintz and Stankoven to start. On one line, the Marchment, Duchesne, Sagan line stays together. Jason Robertson with Wyatt Johnston, Evgeny Dodonov, and then Steele, Bork, and Blackwell is your 4th line. Sean, what are your initial thoughts about this flip-flop of left wingers?
I don't mind it. It's one of those things that I think you're trying to get everyone going a little bit. You try different things. Like, as I'm the resident line detractor and not liking lines in general, like, I think it's when you move guys around, it prepares you in the season for as you have to make connections throughout the season. So I think it's fine. I have no issue with it. I'm fascinated to see kind of how it plays out through the game, because one of the things that Florida does, and I was there for the Cup final last year watching them play, Florida effectively they don't really care. Like, Paul Maurice doesn't really care much about line matching. You got two coaches here that don't really care about line matching. They both like rolling lines. They both like their big guys to go win matchups. And so I'm interested to see the chess match between the coaches on this too, because maybe that stays together. Maybe by the second period it's changed. Either way, it's a nice wrinkle, I guess, to start the game. So
scribble down a word and you have a thought.
Well, yeah, I think the reason that Jamie, I get a couple guys flip-flop. I think there's a couple reasons. For me, I think Jamie goes up on that line to give it some bite. I think that what happens sometimes when people want to play a certain style and all three guys play a certain style, and I'm not throwing Logan into that picture so much, but it drags other people into the fight. And I think if Jamie can kind of, so to speak, stir the pot a little bit, that Roope's got to get involved. Stankoven's got to get involved. Guys on the ice. And as far as Robo moving down with Wyatt, I don't know if that might be for Wyatt. You know, I mean, he's back in the middle of the ice where he can move around, and I think Wyatt can get Robo the puck. Maybe there's going to be a connection there, and Robo can, put a couple of those nice passes. And I think personally, I think Wyatt's a better player when he's in the middle of the ice versus on the wall. That's just my personal opinion.
Sam, do you feel like the Stars needed to make this change against? I mean, they haven't quite figured out because of injury earlier in the season and then performance the best way to utilize their 13 forwards yet.
Yeah, we talked a bunch about this before the season, right? We knew that filling that hole in the top line was going to be hard. We didn't know how they would do it, but we also knew that wasn't the only question, because whoever goes up there is going to leave a spot somewhere else, and they've been testing it. It's part of the early season. If every team goes through it, the Stars are in a way sort of fortunate that they do have that Duchesne line that's been so solid. That's kind of like, all right, push that one aside. Let's work on the other three, which is a nice benefit to have already. They know specific guys that will be together, right? They know they want to keep certain guys in a spot. Roope Hintz isn't coming from off of that top center role. They want Johnson in the middle, preferably if possible. So it's kind of just meshing around. And Pete's talked about it. He actually was very honest about Jason Robertson being a bit behind with that cyst removal and how much time he had to take completely off of skating, completely off of any weight bearing activity. And he's playing a little bit of catch up. So I think this is just a mix it up. Let's get Jason going a little bit. Maybe that gets Wyatt going a little bit. Let's get Ben and Logan up there with Roope and see that's a dangerous looking line. If they play Ben with Stankoven and Johnston was super effective. So now put Roope Hintz, who is a completely different and more dynamic player probably than Wyatt. And I think it just gives them a lot of options. But yeah, this is normal, I think, to see what they have and figure it out. I don't know that the Stars will have 4 lines that they keep the same all the way up throughout the season. I think we'll see a ton of this rotating.
Luds, Pete DeBoer said that he would like to get the healthy scratches. For today's game, it will be Brendan Smith, Oscar Beck, and Kyle Capobianco. He would like to get them into the second game. How much do you think that, obviously, because this is such a special type thing, right? It's just like a Winter Classic or something like that. Not everybody gets to play. They get 2 games, so there's a chance. But how much do you go with sentimentality? And we'll talk about that probably more for the game tomorrow, versus these are 2 valuable points both today and on Saturday.
Well, a couple things. How did you hear about that he said that?
It was reported in the press. So he was saying it out loud.
So maybe the players read the same thing.
You think?
Well, if somebody, let's just use Bork, for instance, if he puts something out there that I'd like to get him in there, and maybe it lights a fire and say, no, I don't want to be in there. Or if you're Blackwell or whoever may, Steele or, whoever, you're kind of sending a message through the press.
I'm laughing because when you first asked me, I go, wait a minute, did I say something that wasn't supposed to be on air? I'm thinking back like, it was to the media, I think. Then I went, oh wait, I get what you're going with.
Yeah, it was in there. I mean, you're kind of finding little ways because you know that they read and listen to what you say, and if you're one of those players that maybe been in and out, you're like, well, I don't want to go out, and so maybe I got to show you a little bit more.
I don't think they read anymore, Luds. I don't think they read anymore. It's the whole thing. Like I know that the coach might say it and maybe they pick it up from Twitter, but
do you think they read Twitter?
Some do. Like I know some players do, but players don't care what I write. I'm useless. Like that's not. And I'm
no. You're exactly right, Sean. They don't care what you write. but they do care what the coach says.
I know that, and that's the whole thing. Where so like I think that's something where it's the coach said it, and I think he's trying to connect to a couple guys, but I don't know about that part. I just kind of I struggle with that part. The other thing, and just real quick, are we including Capobianco in that? Are we properly doing that, or is he just a like?
I'm not sure, actually. To be honest with you, I don't know if he means that or not, because Capobianco was called up to be the extra guy, because you can't, if somebody has an illness or injury, get a guy across the ocean fast enough.
And to be honest with you, I'm not even thinking about anybody but Bork. To me, that's the only one I'm thinking of.
I was thinking Oscar Beck for Bork, maybe Brendan Smith. Yeah. So, but you look at and then they have the third goalie with Magnus Hellberg, who's there, but he's not even officially listed on the game roster because he's not dressing, and also because it's only as a backup. Chris Drieger, by the way, is the third on this trip because, again, they're in Finland, so the normal e-bug routine that they would normally do, they just don't have. Sam, let's talk about the goalie for a minute, because Jake Oettinger will start in goal tonight, his 200th career NHL game in the regular season. He has 118 wins in 199 appearances, that starts and relief. And the one team, or one of the few teams he struggled against, is the Florida Panthers. 8 appearances, 1-5-1 with a 3.57 goals against and an 8.92 save percentage. Sometimes that's the team in front of the goalie, but I'm sure this is one that Jake Oettinger wants to get better.
Yeah, I think was he in net? I can't remember. Was he in net for that big comeback last year when they were up 3-0 as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's multiple reasons, right? They want to get the Stanley Cup champions. Jake and the Stars both want to kind of redeem themselves a little bit with that one. But what Jake has done, it blew me away that he is at 200 games, just like with Roope and Jason being at 400 and 300 respectively. It just feels like it's flown by. It feels like just yesterday that he was splitting that weird season with Hudobin or getting into the bubble as his first game. But 200 games for him, he's already, as you mentioned, he's got great numbers. He's got a career 914 save percentage. He's already played 47 playoff games at age 25. It's incredible what he's done. He's on pace right now. Obviously, it's very early, but he's on pace for an incredible season. His numbers are fantastic with a 938 save percentage in the early season now. So this is a big one for Jake. It'd be interesting to see, depending on how today goes, we might see Jake twice, right? Which is kind of the interesting part of this back-to-back. This is a really big 4 points. It's not just let's get everybody in and rotate all the guys so they can play in this cool exhibition in Finland, because it's not an exhibition. These are 4 really important points against a really good team. So I think that I expect to see Jake at his best today and possibly tomorrow.
Boy, that's a great setup, Sam, because, Sean, that's the next question I have. Pete DeBoer said that he was reserving the right to possibly play Jake both games. He didn't say, yes, Casey DeSmith would play tomorrow for sure. There's still, I think, a very good possibility he will. But ordinarily during the regular season, there's a back-to-back. They're not playing Jake Oettinger both games. Is it a good idea to wait and see in this instance?
I mean, I think it's fine to say whatever you want to say, but why did the Stars have invested so much of this trip into trusting their sports science department? It's how they planned when they were going to fly over there, and they're planning their schedule and everything like that. And I have a hard time believing the sports science department thinks it's a good idea to play a goalie back-to-back and then recover on a 11-hour flight home. I have a hard time believing that is the best use of playing someone of wear and tear on the body. So Pete DeBoer can say that. I just have a feeling that this is also a decision where Jim Nill and Star Sports Science staff and Jeff Reese are all going to say, well, that's a great thing to say and a reason to motivate Jake. But if it's kind of a bit of malpractice if you're trying to keep Jake Oettinger healthy for the whole season, in my view. So,
I mean, the other thing is that Jake has said that they tell him the day before when he's playing.
Yes, they do, but they also, there's a bit of a difference with a back-to-back. Like, it's one thing to tell somebody the day before when it's that. I actually, and this is the thing I was just thinking about from a game perspective as we were prepping for this show. I was kind of not surprised, but I was actually, like, from a league perspective, why is this not Friday, Sunday, right? Like, you want to put your best product on the ice, right? And that's, you want to market, and you want to put your best product on the ice. And you have we know back-to-backs aren't, the second game of back-to-back is not always nearly as good of a game. It can be a bit of a garbage game. So why wasn't this scheduled Friday, Sunday? Just from this is a thought I had literally thought about 20 minutes before we came on there. Like why wouldn't you do a Friday, Sunday or a Thursday, Saturday to get a better product in both games and then just celebrate the entire weekend? You could have had an Ilves Tempere game on Saturday in between in Nokia and made it a 3-3 for hockey fans there. Like that's just a thought that comes to mind for me is why did you intentionally schedule a back-to-back and a showcase when we know the second games of back-to-backs aren't great?
It's an interesting thought because they had the time the days before and the days after. It doesn't feel like they had to cram that into 2 days.
Above my pay grade.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't understand why they do some of the things that they do, and maybe Dallas had another, Florida had to play a game in there. Maybe they're saying we got to give them an extra day. I don't know.
All right, let's go to the Florida Panthers roster for a minute. We've spent a lot of time talking about the Stars because there's a lot to talk about. But Sam, Tomas Nosek is how you pronounce his name. He's been, of course, a longtime player in the NHL, but he has not played a game for the Florida Panthers as he was injured, an upper body injury on September 22nd in a preseason game against Nashville. He will make his Panthers debut, which they're very excited about. But Sam, when you look at this lineup, I'm really focused on the top 2 lines, although they do have some good depth with Lindell and Luostarinen on the third line. It's those top 6 that really cause a lot of trouble for opponents of the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. Nosek's a good player, good two-way player. I saw him play in New Jersey a bunch, so he'll provide a little stability on that bottom line. But you look at the Panthers, and they're deep, but they are still a little bit top heavy, especially with Tkachuk missing time with illness. So he's gotten going because he's got 7 points in 6 games, but he's only played 6 games. So for them, it's the Reinhart. I can't believe the Sam Reinhart story is just so incredible to watch. Like all the stuff that's happened, and then he just comes out and scores at will last season, and everyone's wondering, is he really worthy of the big contract extension? Is he going to be able to do what he did again? Well, he's got 7 goals and 16 points in 11 games. So, yes, he can do it again. Him, Bennett, you mentioned Lindell, who also has more than a point per game pace. They are a lethal team. I think that sometimes people forget that because you see how physical they can be and how obnoxious and annoying they can be on the forecheck and getting in your face. But the reason they're so successful is because they can do all that really well. And then they have some of the top players in the league that can finish off when they get the chance.
All right, let's take a look at the defense. Luds, your thoughts about this decor? Oh, wait, we've got a super chat. Ardell wants to interrupt the flow. He's got a Ludwig and Miro, or it could be Dumba and Miro.
It's got to be Dumba.
Less Swede, more finish. Go to the net front.
There you go. Yeah. That's pretty straightforward. Maybe he should be in the room coaching.
There you go.
Ardell.
All right, let's go to the D. What are your thoughts about this 6 for the Florida Panthers?
I like their top 2. I think they complement each other. Mikkola, Schmidt. I think Schmidt's underrated, to be honest with you. I think he's that guy, and he's got some enthusiasm to his game, and he can get involved in things like that. So, I look at them as having, 3, 4 back there. It's not the best. It's not a Vegas group. So if you're going to get exposed, that's probably the area that you can expose them.
I agree. I think Forsling was a bit of a surprise of how he's risen to that spot.
Quick.
But Aaron Ekblad has always been
if you can stay healthy.
Chip. And he plays a tough game and gets hurt. We've seen it happen where he had I think he broke his leg or ankle or something in Dallas. That was a gruesome injury. Yeah. I mean, my dream pairing would be an Ekblad-Heiskanen combo. Think about that righty-lefty. It would be unbelievable. Florida's never getting rid of him. And then the goalie, Sean, Sergei Bobrovsky was great in a couple of spots around the NHL, but there was some real question marks about his contract and was he getting his value? Could he win the big game? Well, I guess he's told everybody that he is now a Stanley Cup champ.
And he's got 2 Vezina trophies and a Stanley Cup. He's a guy who we've talked the Hockey Hall of Fame discussion before. Like, he's the guy who checks all those boxes right now. That's a Hall of Fame goaltender you're going to play against resume-wise. Now, throughout his career, he's had some ups and downs. There's been times he definitely hasn't delivered on that contract value, but then in the end, Florida won a Stanley Cup last year. So it's with Bobrovsky, it's always interesting to see which version you get, because there's some times where you watch him play and he's one of the most fun guys in the league to watch because he's that good. He's that dynamic in that. And then there's sometimes where he kind of wavers a little bit. And I'm assuming it's going to be a good version of Bobrovsky because what we've seen lately. And that's just goes back to the Ottinger point where I know the two goalies don't play against each other, but you talk about measuring stick games. I want to see Jake Ottinger outplay Bobrovsky today because he didn't do it last year in Edmonton, and we've talked about working way up to that. This can be one of those proving points for Jake against a goalie who, depending on how some things go, could be in the Hockey Hall of Fame someday.
Sam, you brought this up, and I have to throw it to you for this. March 12th, 2024, the Stars have a 3-0 lead at home over the Florida Panthers, their last meeting. They lose the game 4-3 in regulation. 4 unanswered goals by the Panthers, including Aleksander Barkov's power play goal with just over 5 minutes to go in regulation as Dallas coughs up a 3-0 lead. 3 of those 4 goals for the Panthers came in the third period.
Yeah, that was a brutal one. I remember it well. I was sitting in the NHL.com office watching that game, thinking the story was all written and ready to go with a nice 3-0 or even more solid win over a really good team at that time. They were really hot at that time, and got going. But that's I mean, it's fresh on your mind, right? You don't forget those things. You don't as a player. You just don't forget the times, especially when there's somewhat of an embarrassment, right? That's at home. That's a very bad implosion. That's what we've seen a few times with this team over the past few years that I think they've been really good at this year is when they do get those leads, they've kind of held them down a little bit, which has been really nice to see. But yeah, that was a bad one to have. And I think this is a good redemption chance today. But I do have one quick question for the boys that I saw today. I don't know if you heard Pete DeBoer mentioned that he believed, and wouldn't be shocked if sometime in the future there was a European division in the NHL. I want to open that up to any of you guys that want to answer if you think that's a possibility.
Honestly, that sound means that we don't have time, but I'd like to table that for next week. We could talk about it because, and here's why, Sam. That's a really good one. I think we should elicit a longer conversation.
League's getting soft enough the way it is.
Here we go.
Lozenge Luds.
Matvei Michkov was named the NHL's Rookie of the Month for October. He was tied in points with Logan Stankoven. 9 points in 11 games. Stankoven had 9 points in 9 games. He had the most goals. Michkov, the right wing for the Philadelphia Flyers. Stankoven led the league in rookie assists. But one guy who did get an award is our very own Craig Ludwig. He was named Tim Cato's DLLS Sports Personality of the Day. And there are claps coming from, I think, Tim Cato in the other room as Luddy won the Halloween DLLS award. Congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And Little Lud's in there too. Little Lud Sam. He's runner up then.
I thought both costumes were fantastic.
Well, and the turpentine is killing me right now. What do you call it? Paint thinner.
The same thing.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not Tim Cato's award to give out. The award is named after Tim Cato.
It actually says at the bottom, selected by the mayor of Gotham City, right down here in this fine print.
Which would be Ben.
That's got to be GM Ben.
So are we leaving that here in the studio, or is that going home on my wall?
So wait, this isn't like the Mark Messier Leadership Award.
Here.
Yes, this is exactly right.
Okay.
This
right?
Similar.
There,
wait,
so
is this like
there and he can see the personality?
Yeah. Wait, okay. Is this like, I need a clarification. Is this like the silly Mark Messier Leadership Award where Mark Messier it's named after and then he gets to pick the winner?
Can you turn his mic down a little bit?
I don't think he heard you say that just like 5 seconds ago.
No, Sean. So it's like how the like the Super Bowl is sponsored by Bridgestone. It's as if this award is sponsored by Tim Cato.
So my
question,
question,
he won the first one.
My question again is, if I get a sin bin for seeing some 90s Pokemon and thinking they look like a wrong cartoon, do we give Sean a sin bin for bringing up a point that Luddy just said and he didn't hear 5 seconds ago?
Well, you also misrepresented the award, and so I think there's 2 sin bins in your column.
Misrepresented? I just read what it said on the thing.
Well, this whole courtroom's out of order.
Boy, I think we're going to have to drop some gloves here. Guess what? The game is about to start in the next few minutes. We're going to go watch it on Victory Plus. What's your final thoughts, Luds, before we get to the first of the 2 games?
Well, we actually have 3 Sams here today. The Sam, our little Lud Sam.
Yep.
And like Sam talked about, Reinhardt, there is Bennett. The 2 Bennetts in 7 categories, goals scored, blah, blah, blah. Those 2 Sams are in the top 3 in 7 of those categories. So I'm going to tell you, there's 2 Sams out there to worry about today for the Dallas Stars.
Sean, final thought?
Sergei Bobrovsky, 18-2-2 in his career against the Dallas Stars. So that's something someone texted me mid-show to look up. So that's a challenge.
Sam?
Yeah, if you're not in Dallas, just go ahead and get a free trial of Fubo because that's the only way you're watching this game because it's on NHL Network.
Look at him get that in there.
Yep. Hey,
Little Luds is on it again.
Victory Plus for all those of you that can. We'll see you after the game.
We all silly like the mayor.